Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be doing some more graphic work here, and I'm going to start by taking all these images that were photographed in my studio and bringing them into Photoshop. And what you're seeing here is the same image photographed under several different types of lighting conditions. So I'm gonna select all, copy, and then close. And since I didn't actually change the image, it won't even ask me to save it. And then paste it into a layer here. In fact, I'm gonna bring the layers in just so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. And then come over to the next image. As you can see, it's just the one layer. Select all, copy, close, and then brings me right back to here. Paste that over it, and I'm just going to repeat this step for every one of these images. And that's all of them. Okay, so as you can see, these are all the same image from exactly the same angle, but completely different lighting conditions. So I'm able to kind of get the lighting that I want here. Okay, so let's start with, now this is going to be the background, the blue screen layer. So this is the background layer that I'm going to pull my blue screen from. Okay, so let's call this blue screen. Oops. And I'm going to go ahead and put that. Okay, I'm going to put that at the top, and I'm going to turn it off for now. And I'm going to look at what I'm lighting in all these different pieces. This is, I'd say this is probably my master key light. And then here we have a bit of foreground. And this is kind of the same thing, but a dimmer key light. So let's call this dim. And then here we have this is the edge lighting. So let's call this edge. Okay, so the key light is pretty bright, and I really don't want this scene very bright, so I'm probably going to go ahead and start with the dim. And what I can do is, if there's something I want to brighten up, I can do that by just erasing some of this. See how that brightens that up? Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and keep that on the in the back there, just in case I need it. And I'm going to go ahead and adjust these levels a bit and darken the image down a bit, because I do want this scene to be fairly dark. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so now that we have this scene, and we have our dim image here to start with, I've got some interesting edge lighting here that is kind of highlighting some of this stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and overlay it as a screen. So that's going to just overlay the parts that are lighter and not the parts that are darker. And it just kind of allows it to come through as a bit of highlighting. And then I'm going to change the opacity a bit, so I can just bring it in as a subtle highlight. So there's before and then after. Now I can see I have a bit of a highlight there. And then this foreground is to sort of brighten up some of this area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it on I kind of like how it's a bit darker over there on the edge. I do like that. I don't like how it's much brighter in the extreme foreground. Okay, so I'm going to get my pin out, and I'm going to make sure I'm on 100% flow here, and I'm going to get rid of all this darker stuff here. Actually, that was a little too abrasive there. I want to do it kind of smoothly. So there's a technique that I'm trying to use here. I'm changing my flow right now, but so that I can delete some of this, but not all of it. And what I'm doing is the foreground. What I really want is I want the foreground to be a bit darker. And what that does is it kind of highlights what's in the background, or what's in, I should say, the midground. So, but for the most part, what we're doing is the closer things get to camera, the darker we want them, and that's really the gist of this technique. I'm gonna get rid of, I'm gonna actually brighten up this piece of it because I want to kind of highlight that too. So the closer we get to the camera, the brighter we want, or I'm sorry, the darker we want it. And in fact, I'm just going to look at everything I've got here. Okay, so this is the darkest that we have is the dim layer. So I'm going to come in and erase all this foreground stuff on every layer but the dim layer. And that gets me about as dark as I can get. Now I'm going to go ahead and come in with a, let's say, a 150 feathered selection tool. I'm going to select that. Actually, when you try to select something with feather and you get a little bit of edge coming up on the back like that, the best thing to do is to select more than you want and then drag it down a bit like this. Okay, and so now I'm going to dim the foreground a bit. So you see how we're dimming that foreground, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a sort of stepped technique to dim this down. So I'm dimming this part. Now I'm going to drag the whole piece down a bit and dim it some more. I'm just going to keep stepping down until I've got it sufficiently dark in the extreme foreground. There we go. And do a little bit of a paint over here. Oops. Increase my flow. By the way, I've been trying to some of the viewers of the videos have been you guys have been asking me to put up I guess links to stuff I'm talking about in the show notes, and in the spirit of doing that, I apologize if I haven't been very diligent in that doing that. Actually, one of my backers, Polo Diablo, I want to thank her for coming in and actually making some notes and notating a bunch of links for me to put in the show notes, because that's been a real help. In this case, I've got so many layers here that I can't really affect these rocks very well. So I'm going to go ahead and probably just do a bit of a paint over and see how that goes over. On the top layer here. There we go. Yeah, I like how that's looking. and then I'm going to go in with darker down here, and that's going to create a bit of a gradation. There we go. Okay. So you know, and in continuing those links and suggestions, I've been watching some reviews from a YouTube channel called Adventure Reviews, and there's a particular review on there for Space Quest 2: Vohal's Revenge that I highly recommend. One of the things I really like about this review is that besides just simply reviewing Space Quest 2, the original Space Quest 2, which you probably have, well, actually part of his point is that you may not have played the game because it is probably the least played game. I think he's right, because it was never remade, and it was an old AGI engine game. At some point, I guess between Space Quest 2 and Space Quest 3, they switched to the SCI engine, and so the game started acquiring a more finely detailed look, and I think that those older AGI games may have been a bit neglected, even by retro gamers. So, and you know, of course, there's a remake of one, which is was not actually designed by or approved by the original team that made it. It was just kind of put together by people, I guess, at Sierra, or I'm not even sure. Maybe it was a separate, an outside company. But anyway, I can't personally recommend Space Quest 1 VGA. Anyway, so I really recommend checking checking out this review, because he, in addition to talking about Space Quest 2, he kind of goes into the whole history of adventure games. And if you don't know the history of adventure games, it's really interesting, and it has to do with a game made by a student that was originally designed to simulate a cave system in a gigantic cavern that I believe eventually turned out to be connected to another massive cavern system in America, and it just ended up being one of the most massive, gigantic systems of caverns, or if not the biggest in the entire country, and probably one of the biggest in the world. Anyway, he was just moved to this one programmer was just moved to create a simulation of this, and I could be wrong here, but I believe that his wife was a spelunker, more so than he was, and he was sort of I guess their dual interest in it sort of gave him the interest to go and create this thing. And anyway, what he created was Adventure, and Adventure turned out to be the granddaddy of all adventure games. It also is the granddaddy of all role-playing games, and it's the granddaddy of the MUD, which, of course, the MUD is the precursor to Ultima Online, which was the precursor to pretty much all massive multiplayer games. So I mean, we're talking serious game history here. And anyway, I won't go into the whole story, because this reviewer, adventure reviewers reviews, goes into it quite well. But I highly recommend it. It's really fun, especially if you're interested in the history of games and the history of adventure games in particular, and the history of Sierra, because he goes into it quite a bit. It's really fun. So here we go, guys. This is pretty much the beginnings here. As you can see, I selected out the blue area and got rid of it, and now I need to go in by hand and get rid of the stuff that wasn't on blue. But I'm off to a really good start here, creating this scene, and you've kind of seen a little bit of how I go about doing that. I will be back later as the scene comes together, and show you how it's coming along. Thanks for watching.